There's something that millions of seniors do every single evening. Something that feels comforting, something that helps them unwind after a long day, something that's become such a normal part of their routine that they'd never question it. In fact, if you asked most people whether this habit could possibly harm their heart, they'd look at you like you were crazy. They might even say, "But my doctor never said anything about it," or "I've been doing this for years and I'm fine." And yet, research is increasingly showing that this one evening habit is putting significant stress on the heart, particularly in people over 60, and it could be contributing to a whole range of cardiovascular problems, including irregular heartbeat, elevated blood pressure, poor sleep, and even increased risk of heart attack during the night or early morning hours. Now, I'm not talking about something obviously unhealthy. I'm not talking about smoking or drinking excessive alcohol or eating a huge meal right before bed, though those things certainly can stress the heart. What I'm talking about is something that most people consider completely harmless, something that many doctors don't even think to ask about, something that's so deeply embedded in our evening routines that the thought of changing it might feel uncomfortable or even impossible. But once you understand what this habit is doing to your cardiovascular system, once you see the mechanisms by which it's affecting your heart rate, your blood pressure, your stress hormones, and your sleep quality, I believe you'll want to make a change, because your heart deserves better. Your heart deserves rest. And this evening habit is robbing your heart of the recovery time it desperately needs. Today, I'm going to reveal exactly what this habit is. I'm going to walk you through the science of how it affects your cardiovascular system, particularly as we age. I'm going to share some real stories of people who made changes and saw dramatic improvements in their heart health. And I'm going to give you practical, compassionate guidance on how to adjust your evening routine to protect your heart and improve your overall well-being. Because you deserve to know the truth. You deserve to understand what's happening in your body. And you deserve to have the information you need to make choices that support a long, healthy, independent life. Now, before I tell you what this habit is, I need to say something very important. I am not a medical doctor. I am a health educator with years of experience teaching about natural health and nutrition. I'm not here to diagnose you, I'm not here to tell you to stop taking any medications, and I'm not here to replace your healthcare provider. What I am here to do is share information that many people simply aren't hearing from their doctors, information that could make a real difference in your cardiovascular health. If you have heart disease, if you're on heart medications, please continue working with your doctor. But consider bringing up what we discussed today in your next appointment, because this could be a missing piece of your heart health puzzle. Let me start by asking you a question, and I'd really love to hear from you in the comments. How old are you, and what does your typical evening look like? What do you do to relax and unwind after dinner? And have you noticed any issues with your heart, whether it's irregular beats, racing heart, elevated blood pressure, or anything else that concerns you? Go ahead and share, because I think you'll find that many people have similar experiences, and understanding your patterns can help you see the connections we're going to talk about today. All right, so what is this evening habit that's stressing your heart? The answer is eating too close to bedtime. Specifically, eating a large meal or substantial snacks within 2 to 3 hours of going to sleep. And I know some of you might be thinking, that's it? Eating before bed? How could that possibly stress my heart? But I promise you, by the time we're done today, you're going to understand exactly how and why this seemingly innocent habit is putting real strain on your cardiovascular system, especially if you're over 60. Let's start with what happens in your body when you eat. When food enters your stomach and digestive system, your body has to do significant work to break it down, absorb the nutrients, and process everything. This digestive process requires a substantial increase in blood flow to your digestive organs. Your stomach, your intestines, your liver, your pancreas, they all need more blood to do their work. And where does that extra blood come from? It's redirected from other parts of your body. Your heart has to work harder to pump that blood where it's needed. Your heart rate increases. Your blood pressure can rise. Your entire cardiovascular system shifts into a more active state. Now, during the day, this is perfectly fine. Your body is designed to handle digestion. But here's the problem. When you eat a large meal in the evening, especially close to bedtime, you're asking your cardiovascular system to do this work at a time when it should be resting. At night, your body is supposed to shift into a parasympathetic state, which is your rest and digest mode. Your heart rate should slow down. Your blood pressure should drop. Your body should be focused on repair, recovery, and restoration. But when you eat late, especially if it's a big meal, you're forcing your cardiovascular system to stay in an active sympathetic state. You're preventing that natural nighttime recovery period. And over time, this chronic lack of cardiovascular rest takes a toll. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine you have someone working for you, and they work hard all day, every day. But every evening, right when they should be going home to rest, you give them another big project that keeps them working for several more hours. And then you tell them to sleep for a shorter period because they stayed up late working. How long do you think that person could keep going before they burned out, before their health suffered, before they simply couldn't function effectively anymore? That's what you're doing to your heart when you eat late. You're denying it the rest it needs to stay healthy and strong. But the stress on your heart from late eating goes beyond just the increased workload during digestion. Let me walk you through several specific mechanisms that are particularly problematic for seniors. First, there's the issue of blood sugar and insulin. When you eat, especially if you're eating carbohydrates, your blood sugar rises. Your pancreas releases insulin to help move that sugar from your bloodstream into your cells. This is a normal process, but when this happens late in the evening, it can interfere with your natural circadian rhythms. Your body's insulin sensitivity naturally decreases in the evening. That means you need more insulin to handle the same amount of food compared to if you'd eaten it earlier in the day. And elevated insulin at night promotes fat storage, raises inflammation, and can contribute to insulin resistance over time. All of these factors stress your cardiovascular system and increase your risk of heart disease. Second, there's the issue of sleep disruption. When you go to bed with food still digesting in your stomach, your sleep quality suffers. You might have trouble falling asleep because your body is still in an active state. You might wake up during the night with indigestion, heartburn, or the need to use the bathroom. You might sleep more lightly and wake up feeling unrefreshed. And poor sleep is one of the most significant risk factors for cardiovascular disease. When you don't sleep well, your blood pressure doesn't drop the way it should during the night. Your stress hormones stay elevated. Your body can't properly repair and regenerate. And over time, chronic poor sleep dramatically increases your risk of heart attack, stroke, and heart failure. Third, there's the issue of lying down with a full stomach. When you lie down shortly after eating, gravity is no longer helping keep food and stomach acid where they belong. Stomach acid can flow back up into your esophagus, causing acid reflux or heartburn. But it's not just uncomfortable. Acid reflux can actually trigger changes in heart rhythm. The vagus nerve, which runs from your brain through your chest and abdomen, can be irritated by acid reflux. And this irritation can cause irregular heartbeats, chest discomfort, and other symptoms that are sometimes mistaken for heart problems, but that are actually being caused or worsened by eating too close to bedtime. Fourth, there's the issue of blood pressure and heart rate at night. Research has shown that people who eat late, especially large meals late, tend to have higher nighttime blood pressure and heart rate. Remember, your blood pressure and heart rate are supposed to drop at night. That nighttime dipping is essential for cardiovascular health, but when you eat late, you disrupt that pattern. Your heart stays working harder throughout the night. And we know from extensive research that people who don't experience normal nighttime blood pressure dipping have significantly higher rates of heart attack, stroke, and cardiovascular death. Let me tell you about a man I worked with. We'll call him Robert. Robert was 68 years old, and he'd been having issues with his heart for a couple of years. He had high blood pressure that was difficult to control despite medication. He was experiencing frequent irregular heartbeats, what his doctor called premature ventricular contractions, or PVCs. He was waking up at night feeling like his heart was racing or pounding. He was tired all the time. His doctor had run tests, adjusted his medications multiple times, but nothing seemed to really resolve the issues. When I sat down with Robert and we went through his daily routine, I noticed something interesting. He told me that he and his wife always ate dinner late, usually around 7 or 7:30, because that's when they'd eaten for their entire married life. Dinner was often the biggest meal of the day, and it was usually pretty heavy meat and potatoes or pasta or something substantial. After dinner, they'd watch TV for a couple of hours, maybe have a snack or dessert around 9, and then they'd go to bed around 10 or 10:30. That meant Robert was going to bed with a stomach full of food that was still digesting, night after night, year after year. I explained to Robert everything I'm explaining to you today about how eating late stresses the heart. He was skeptical at first. He said, "But I've always eaten this way. How could this suddenly be a problem now?" And I told him, "It's not sudden. This has been stressing your heart for years. But now that you're older, now that your cardiovascular system is less resilient, the effects are becoming more noticeable. Your body is trying to tell you something." I suggested to Robert that we try an experiment. For 3 weeks, he would eat his main meal earlier, ideally around 5 or 5:30 in the afternoon. If he was hungry later in the evening, he could have a very light snack, but nothing substantial and nothing at all in the 2 hours before bed. He would also focus on making that main meal lighter and easier to digest, with more vegetables and less heavy protein and starch. Robert agreed to try, though he admitted it felt strange to change such a long-standing habit. But within just a few days, he noticed something remarkable. He was sleeping better. He wasn't waking up with his heart pounding. The heartburn that he'd almost accepted as normal was gone. And after 2 weeks, he checked his blood pressure at home and found that it was lower than it had been in months, especially his evening and morning readings. When Robert went back to his doctor for his regular checkup, the doctor was amazed at the improvement. His blood pressure was better. He was having far fewer irregular heartbeats. He looked and felt healthier. And when Robert explained what he'd changed, the doctor said, "You know, I never even thought to ask about your eating schedule, but this makes perfect sense." Robert continued with his new routine, and his heart health continued to improve. He told me, "I can't believe something so simple made such a difference. I wish someone had told me about this years ago." Let me ask you another question, and I'd really love to hear your honest answer in the comments. What time do you typically eat your evening meal? And do you snack after dinner? If so, what time do you usually go to bed? Really think about the timing, because this is so important. Many people don't realize how little time there is between their last food intake and when they lie down to sleep. Now, I want to talk about why this issue is particularly significant for seniors. As we age, several things happen that make eating late even more problematic for heart health. First, our digestive systems slow down. It takes longer to digest food when you're 70 than when you're 30. That means food sits in your stomach longer, requiring your cardiovascular system to work harder for a longer period of time. Second, our cardiovascular systems become less resilient. Our hearts don't recover from stress as quickly. Our blood vessels are stiffer. Our bodies are less able to compensate for the demands we place on them. What your heart could handle easily in your younger years might be too much stress now. Third, many seniors are on multiple medications, and some of those medications can be affected by food timing. For example, some blood pressure medications work better when taken at certain times relative to meals. Some medications for diabetes or cholesterol can interact with food in ways that affect their effectiveness. The timing of your eating can actually impact how well your medications work. Fourth, seniors are more likely to have existing cardiovascular conditions like high blood pressure, previous heart attacks, heart failure, or irregular heart rhythms. If your heart is already compromised, adding the extra stress of late eating is like adding weight to an already heavy load. It's too much. So what should you do? What does a heart-healthy evening eating schedule look like? Let me give you some clear, practical guidelines. Ideally, you want to eat your main meal of the day in the early to mid-afternoon, somewhere between noon and 4 p.m. This gives your body plenty of time to digest before bed. It aligns with your natural circadian rhythms, when your insulin sensitivity is highest and your digestion is most efficient. And it ensures that your cardiovascular system has the evening to wind down rather than ramp up. I know that for many people, this is a significant shift. Dinner at noon or 2 p.m. might feel like lunch, not dinner. And the evening might feel strange without a big meal to look forward to. But I encourage you to think of it differently. That midday meal is your main meal, your biggest and most substantial meal. Then in the evening, you can have a lighter meal, something simple and easy to digest, and you want to finish eating at least 2 to 3 hours before bed. For example, if you go to bed at 10 p.m., you want to finish your evening meal by 7 or 7:30 at the latest, and that evening meal should be light. Think soup, a small salad, some vegetables, maybe a small portion of protein. Something that's not going to sit heavy in your stomach or require hours of digestive work. And if you find yourself genuinely hungry later in the evening, you can have a very small, simple snack, but it needs to be something light and easy to digest. A few nuts, a small piece of fruit, a cup of herbal tea. But ideally, you're finished. Eating at least 2 hours before bed, and 3 hours is even better. Now, I know some of you are thinking about practical challenges. Maybe you live with family members who eat dinner late, and it's your time together. Maybe you have social commitments that involve evening meals. Maybe you've had your evening mealtime routine for decades, and it feels impossible to change. I understand all of that, and I'm not here to make you feel guilty or to suggest that you have to be perfect, but I am here to tell you the truth about what's happening in your body. And the truth is, eating late is stressing your heart. So you have to decide what's more important. Is it more important to stick with tradition and convenience, or is it more important to protect your heart and give yourself the best chance at a long, healthy life? I can't make that decision for you, but I can give you the information you need to make an informed choice. If you do have social or family situations that involve late eating, try to make the best choices you can in those situations. Eat smaller portions, choose lighter foods, focus on vegetables rather than heavy proteins and starches, and try to keep those occasions occasional rather than every single night. Let me share some additional benefits you might experience when you shift your eating earlier in the day. Beyond the direct benefits to your heart, you may find that you sleep better overall. Many people report falling asleep more easily and sleeping more deeply when they're not digesting food. You may find that you have more energy in the morning because your body actually got the restorative sleep it needed. You may notice improvements in your digestion, less bloating, less constipation, less reflux. You may even find that you lose some weight because eating earlier in the day aligns better with your metabolism and reduces nighttime fat storage. Some people also report feeling mentally clearer. There's emerging research showing that meal timing affects brain health and cognitive function, and that eating in alignment with your circadian rhythms can support better brain function as you age. So the benefits of this change extend far beyond just your heart. Now let's talk about some other evening habits that can support heart health. Once you've addressed the timing of your eating, here are some other things you can do to give your heart the best possible chance to rest and recover at night. First, establish a calming evening routine. The hour or two before bed should be peaceful and relaxing. This is not the time to watch disturbing news, have stressful conversations, or engage in anything that activates your sympathetic nervous system. Instead, do things that promote parasympathetic activation, that rest and digest state. Take a warm bath, do some gentle stretching, read something peaceful, listen to calming music, pray, or meditate. These activities all help lower your heart rate and blood pressure and prepare your body for restorative sleep. Second, practice deep breathing before bed. Just 5 or 10 minutes of slow, deep breathing can significantly lower your heart rate and blood pressure, calm your nervous system, and improve your sleep quality. Breathe in slowly through your nose for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, breathe out slowly for a count of 6 to 8, and repeat. This is one of the most powerful tools you have for supporting your heart health, and it costs nothing. Third, make sure your bedroom is conducive to good sleep. Keep it cool, ideally between 60 and 67 degrees. Keep it dark using blackout curtains if necessary. Keep it quiet or use a white noise machine if you need to block out disruptive sounds. And keep it free of screens. No TV in the bedroom, no checking your phone in bed. Your bedroom should be a sanctuary for sleep. Fourth, be consistent with your sleep schedule. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even on weekends. This helps regulate your circadian rhythms, which in turn helps regulate your cardiovascular function. Your heart thrives on routine and predictability. Fifth, consider your medication timing. If you're taking blood pressure medication or other heart medications, ask your doctor whether the timing of those medications is optimized. Some people benefit from taking certain medications at bedtime rather than in the morning, as this can provide better coverage during those critical nighttime hours. But don't change your medication schedule without discussing it with your doctor first. Let me ask you one more time to share in the comments. After hearing all of this, do you think the timing of your evening meals might be affecting your heart or your sleep? And are you willing to try eating earlier and lighter in the evening to see if it makes a difference for you? I'd love to hear your thoughts and your plans. I also want to address something that I know might come up. Some people have been told that it doesn't matter when you eat, that total calories are all that matters, that meal timing is irrelevant. And while it's true that total calorie intake matters for weight management, the research is increasingly clear that meal timing matters tremendously for metabolic health, cardiovascular health, and overall well-being. Your body is not a simple machine where calories in minus calories out equals your health outcome. Your body is a complex biological system governed by circadian rhythms, hormones, and intricate regulatory mechanisms. And those mechanisms are profoundly affected by when you eat, not just what and how much you eat. So if someone tells you that meal timing doesn't matter, I would encourage you to look at the research yourself, or to consider trying it as an experiment. Give yourself 3 or 4 weeks of eating earlier and lighter in the evening, and see how you feel. See how your sleep is. See how your heart feels. Check your blood pressure. And then decide for yourself whether meal timing matters. I think you'll find that it does. Now, before we finish, I want to emphasize that adjusting your meal timing is just one piece of a comprehensive approach to heart health. You also need to be mindful of what you eat, not just when. A diet rich in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, healthy fats, and moderate amounts of high-quality protein supports heart health. A diet high in processed foods, sugar, unhealthy fats, and excessive salt harms heart health. You also need regular physical activity. Walking is one of the best things you can do for your heart, and I encourage every senior who's physically able to walk for at least 30 minutes every day. Movement keeps your cardiovascular system strong and resilient. You need to manage stress. Chronic stress is a major risk factor for heart disease, and finding healthy ways to cope with stress, whether through prayer, meditation, time in nature, social connection, or hobbies you enjoy, is essential for heart health. You need to avoid smoking and limit alcohol. If you smoke, quitting is the single best thing you can do for your heart. And if you drink alcohol, keep it minimal, especially in the evening, as alcohol can disrupt sleep and affect heart rhythm. And you need to work with your healthcare provider. Regular checkups, appropriate medications when necessary, monitoring of blood pressure and other vital signs, all of these things are important for maintaining heart health as you age. But among all of these factors, meal timing is one that's often completely overlooked, and it's one that can make a surprisingly significant difference. So I encourage you to give it serious consideration. If you found this information valuable, if you learned something today that could help you or someone you care about, please share this video. Share it with friends, family, anyone you know who might benefit from understanding how evening eating habits affect heart health. This is information that could literally save lives, and the more people who know about it, the better. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. We're committed to providing practical, science-based health education for seniors, covering topics that often don't get adequate attention in mainstream healthcare. Every subscription helps us reach more people with this important information. If you have questions, if you'd like to share your own experience with meal timing and heart health, or if there's a specific health topic you'd like me to cover in a future video, please leave a comment. I read every comment, and your feedback and questions help guide the content I create. All right, let's summarize the key points from today. The evening habit that can stress your heart is eating too close to bedtime, particularly eating large or heavy meals within 2 to 3 hours of going to sleep. This habit stresses your heart through multiple mechanisms. It forces your cardiovascular system to work hard when it should be resting. It disrupts your natural circadian rhythms and prevents the normal nighttime drop in blood pressure and heart rate. It can cause or worsen acid reflux, which can trigger irregular heart rhythms. It interferes with sleep quality, and poor sleep is a major risk factor for cardiovascular disease. It leads to elevated blood sugar and insulin at night, promoting inflammation and insulin resistance. And over time, this chronic stress on your heart increases your risk of high blood pressure, heart attack, stroke, and other cardiovascular problems. The solution is to shift your main meal earlier in the day, ideally to the early to mid-afternoon, and to eat a lighter meal in the early evening, finishing at least 2 to 3 hours before bed. This aligns with your body's natural circadian rhythms, allows for proper digestion before sleep, gives your cardiovascular system the nighttime rest it needs, and supports better sleep quality. Additional strategies to support heart health in the evening include establishing a calming evening routine, practicing deep breathing before bed, optimizing your sleep environment, maintaining a consistent sleep schedule, and discussing medication timing with your doctor. I want you to know that you have more power over your heart health than you might realize. Yes, genetics play a role. Yes, aging affects your cardiovascular system. But your daily habits, including the timing of your meals, have an enormous impact on your heart health. And you can start making changes today that will benefit your heart for years to come. Your heart has been working for you every second of every day since before you were born. It deserves your care and respect. It deserves the rest it needs to stay strong and healthy. And one of the most meaningful ways you can care for your heart is to give it those peaceful evening hours when it can slow down, recover, and prepare for another day. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Thank you for caring about your health, for being willing to learn, for being open to making changes that could improve your life. I know that changing long-standing habits isn't easy, but I also know that you're capable of it. And I know that your health, your independence, your quality of life, and your ability to enjoy your family and the things you love are all worth the effort. I wish you restful evenings, peaceful sleep, a strong and healthy heart, and many wonderful years ahead. Take care of yourself, be patient with yourself as you make changes, and remember that every positive choice you make is supporting your well-being. Start tonight. Eat earlier, eat lighter, give your heart the rest it deserves, and see how much better you feel. I'll see you in the next video.